Hello, everyone. Yes, we are live again today. Thank you all for joining us. So, we have a new topic that we want to look into. We want to look at some of the previous the ruling that came from the Supreme Court, and we want to compare them with what we have today at the Election Tribunal, just to show you guys that Peter Obi has a very high chance of becoming our president, honestly. So, guys, but before that, there is this clip that we want to first analyze before Dr. Tel want to show us some of those Supreme Court initial rulings that are related to what we are battling with today at the Election Tribunal. Because from the look of things, Peter Obi's victory is very certain. So, guys, I will be playing that clip, and then Dr. Tel will have one or two things to say about the content of the video before we now dive into those rulings that the Supreme Court has in one time or the other ruled. So let's go through the video that we have. Dr. Tel, you're welcome to today's live.
He filed
I
in
know
May
you are going
to nullify President Tinubu's victory
take us through this video.
at the 25 February presidential election. Obi alleged, among other issues, that Nigeria's Electoral Commission (INEC) failed to substantially comply with the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act in conducting the polls. At the resumed proceedings on Tuesday, the lawyer to INEC, Abubakar Mahmood, a senior advocate of Nigeria, urged the court to dismiss Peter Obi's petition for lacking in merit. Mahmood told the court that Obi misconstrued the introduction of technology in the conduct of the election. He said the Amazon Web Services, which hosts the INEC IREF portal, remains the best in the world in terms of providing services for cloud data storage. The inability of the Electoral Commission to upload polling unit results of the presidential election in real time to the INEC results viewing IREF portal was one of the major grounds for disputing the February election. INEC attributed the challenge to a glitch on its portal on election day. On the issue of failure to upload results in real time, counsel to INEC, Abubakar Mahmood, said the glitch did not.
So, Doctor, I don't know what you have to say about this video we've just watched now, the stance of INEC. They were saying that the Amazon Web Services didn't have any problem, that everything was fine. Let me say, they are trying to say that it is the best. So it means that they gave us the best. They were trying to kind of convince Nigerians that what the services provided is just okay, meaning that they glitch, because before now they've equally told us that there was a glitch, and they keep insisting that that glitch happened, that this Amazon Web Services is a service that everybody can rely on. So there wasn't any a human factor that played out on that day. So I don't know what you have to say as regards to this.
Yeah, left to me, I'd say that I think they're actually going somewhere that they have not finished. They have a say, because the video just stopped when it says the counsel to INEC, Mahmood, said something. And if you permit me, I would say, so that we can summarize it, could you just allow that clip to play again? I'll tell you when to stop, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Not impact the outcome of the election. Responding to Peter Obi's contention over blurred 18,000 result sheets of the presidential election, the INEC lawyer clarified that the blurred electoral documents did not affect the collation of results. He said all witnesses in the suit testified that the election was impeccable. On the issue of scoring 25% votes in Abuja.
Beautiful. You see, the challenge we have had listening to these people, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Listening to APC, Tinubu, and INEC's lawyers is what I call double speak. On one hand, they are condemning themselves. On one hand, they are trying to exonerate themselves. They use their mouth now to say that Amazon Web Services is a reliable Web Services to contract. And then they said that there was a glitch, which they wrote in their final address that lasted for 4 hours. What was that glitch? Where did the glitch come from? Did it come from how amazing that you said does a good job? Or did you switch off the equipment that should connect to Amazon Web Services to compromise the process? It is like me using an iPhone and Apple services are functioning, but I went to the setting and I decided from that setting to put an extra password in my pictures or in my mails or on my WhatsApp, making it impossible for anybody that I give my phone to help me send messages or reply my WhatsApp messages. And then I come to say that my phone had a glitch and I am trying to blame, and I am now trying to blame my network, whereas it was my extra password. If INEC data man or anybody who is in control decided to alter the password that had to deal specifically with the upload of the presidential election, thereby making it impossible for the polling unit officers to do it, they can blame Amazon. And that is exactly what Labour Party claimed, that there was a glitch because they compromised it. If there was ever any glitch, it was self-inflicted glitch. And now look at what they said, that all witnesses that came testified that the election was impeccable. Can you believe that? Which witness? Because the last I remembered, they brought only 2 witnesses, but Labour Party brought all the witnesses. They said it was impeccable. If you check the meaning of impeccable from the dictionary, it said in accordance with the highest standard, faultless. Now, INEC, you used your mouth to say that your upload and your electronic transmission had a glitch. And then you use another mouth to say that it was impeccable. Which one should we choose? If it was impeccable, why did it not produce an impeccable result? Now, if you say that the 18,000 blood upload, if you say that your equipment and everything was working impeccable, why do we have blood result? Now, INEC, you said you did collation with a physical copy. Why didn't you photocopy the physical copy and authorize it? You went ahead to produce only the blood copies because obviously they have destroyed the election result, and forgetting that, as we will see today, that Supreme Court ruling based on the 2022 Electoral Act said it clear that IREV is part of the election on the election day. So INEC is speaking with 2 mouths. APC is speaking with 2 mouths. In fact, let me tell you, today, I have about 44-page document that I'm reading here. This same Olanipe Bekun, who is the lead lawyer for APC candidate, is also the lead lawyer for Enugu State governorship. And he's also dealing with the issue of forged certificate. And as I read like this, I am laughing. The man has the doctorate degree in literature. He also has doctorate degree in law. So he's writing poems, thinking that poems is going to make the judges decide. The judges would decide based on the sections of our law, not how beautiful you're able to write your poems in stanzas and what have you. So if you still have this clip, let's listen to more of the things they are saying. I think it is becoming interesting.
Mr. Mahmoud said nullifying the election on that ground would confer superior status on voters in Abuja over other parts of the country. Closing his arguments in the case, lead counsel to Bola Tinubu, Wole Olanipekun, a senior advocate of Nigeria, said Peter Obi and the Labour Party abandoned their joint petition. Aligning with INEC, Olanipekun said uploading of results to IREV was not part of the coalition process, saying collation is done physically where authorized INEC forms. Olanipekun cited a recent judgment of the Court of Appeal in Lagos, which gave INEC the discretion to choose whichever mode to collate election results. He said the subsisting appellate court decision was given against the Labour Party in favor of INEC. On the matter of criminal forfeiture of $460,000 in narcotics trafficking by Bola Tinubu in the US, Wole Olanipekun.
Can I come in? Did you hear? I just wrote it down. Number one, he said that Peter Obi and Labour Party abandoned their joint petition. Can you hear it? That they abandoned it. Nigeria, did you hear it? And then he said again that that IREV is not part of the collation. Did you hear him say it? And thirdly, that the collation was done only with a physical document. That the Court of Appeal in Lagos gave judgment in favor of INEC, telling INEC to choose any of the method they prefer. Okay, let's start from the Court of Appeal. If I may remind Nigerians and remind the senior advocate of Nigeria too, that what the Court of Appeal said, and the judgment is available, is that the Electoral Act 2022 gave INEC the right to choose the method with which they will use. And then further, that method is what they have gone to publish in their regulation and guidelines. INEC has also went on to publish their training manual, their guideline, and their regulation. So what they have done so far is that they have shot themselves in the leg again, because indeed the appeal court in Lagos said, INEC, the Electoral Act gave you the right to choose your method. And they came in their regulation and they printed the method. They also came in their guideline and they interpreted the guideline. Now, what happens is that on the day of election, INEC abandoned their guideline, they abandoned their regulation. So INEC is trying to tell Nigerians that they ended up not even using any guideline. And the law does not permit that they can make use of arbitrarily without having it on the guideline. The Supreme Court had ruled times without number in election matters that guideline and regulation is part and parcel of the law. That whatsoever INEC publishes on their guideline is part of the law. That is why the current governor of Kogi State is a governor. Because the guy who was the deputy governor to Abubakar, when Abubakar died, said that he will, I've forgotten that his name, that he should now take over. And INEC said no. That their guidelines said that if in the event of the election, someone dies without the election not being concluded, that they, INEC, will follow their guideline to make declarations on how it will continue. The guy took APC to court, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of INEC. That because what happened was that INEC, APC presented this guy now, who is their current governor, and the former deputy governor to Abubakar went to court and said that INEC should not conduct any other election that he's not there. And the Supreme Court told him, INEC have the liberty to follow what is in their guideline. That guideline is part and parcel of the election. And the Supreme Court also went on to say it times without number, that the guideline published by INEC and the training manual published by the INEC is part and parcel of the law. And as we continue today, I don't know, you are going to see that INEC abandoned their guideline, abandoned their manual, abandoned the Electoral Act. So unconsciously, these people are shooting themselves in the leg. So let's just continue to listen to their last argument. Can you play? Good.
Told the court that the US Embassy in Nigeria cleared Tinubu of any crime
Did you hear what this just said?
or indictment, arguing on Mr. Obi's prayer for a rerun should
they used their mouth to say that US Embassy in Nigeria cleared someone. US Embassy is now in the court of law. Just you see how low they can go in their argument. But I like the way Labour Party always deal with them. While they are grappling like people who are swimming, these guys are pointing them to the law. So let's just go ahead. So
the court declined to declare him president. Mr. Olanipekun said the Labour Party flag bearer would not be allowed to participate in the process because he came third in the race. The senior lawyer said the law only provides for Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, who came second in the contest, to participate in a rerun should the court decide so. Assuming without conceding, even if there is going to be a rerun, Mr. Obi, the lawyer said, will not be qualified to run. May I urge my lordships to dismiss this petition? It is an expedition, Mr. Olanipekun said. On his part, APC's lawyer Lateef Fagbemi, also a senior advocate of Nigeria, adopted the closing argument of Abubakar Mahmood and Wole Olanipekun in the suit. Fagbemi said Obi failed to prove polling unit by polling unit INEC's failure to transmit polling unit results electronically. This is abysmally lacking in the suit, arguing that Mr. Obi ought to have proved non-compliance with the electoral law in all polling stations across the country. The issue of run is a two-horse race between the two leading contenders, referring to Mr. Tinubu and Atiku, urging the court to dismiss the petition. Meanwhile, Peter Obi's lead lawyer, Levi Uzoku, told the court that Mr. Tinubu labored in vain to defend his case. Contrary to Wole Olanipekun's argument over the use of IRF during the election, Uzoku referenced the Supreme Court decision on former Osun State Governor Adeboyega Oyetola against Ademola Adeleke, saying the Apex Court held that IRF is part of the electoral process. Mr. Uzoku and SAN contended that an election in which over 8,000 blood election results were uploaded on IRF is a flawed election. He further told the court that Bola Tinubu was declared the winner of the election based on a flawed process. It is not in doubt that the second respondent, Mr. Tinubu, forfeited $460,000 being profits of narcotic trafficking in the US. They don't want to hear that, Mr. Uzoku stated. He said Obi's petition was not abandoned, as he insisted that his team had led credible evidence to aid their client's case. Levi Uzoku later urged the court to grant Peter Obi's prayers and dismiss the respondent. After taking the arguments of lawyers to parties in the suit, the court adjourned for judgment.
As a constitutional issue.
Okay.
So we addressed this sufficient.
Good. Can you give me that? While we talk, let me highlight what happened. If you show me whatever Supreme Court have here, did you notice that when the Labour Party lead lawyer, no, the other one. Okay, this is even good. Yes, beautiful. This thing is a statement quoted directly by the Supreme Court in that case that Levi Uzoku referenced. When he opened his mouth, the first thing he did was just like, if you've seen if you've seen lions chasing kangaroo or chasing other animal in the forest, they go for the jugular. Immediately, the Labour Party lawyer opened his mouth. The first thing he said was to quote the Supreme Court, where Supreme Court has ruled in election matter, relying on 2022 Electoral Act. And this is what the Supreme Court said in the case of Oyetola versus Adeleke, the Supreme Court expressly did not mince word. They said that the collation system and result viewing portal, the collations, you can see it in II if you're reading that. The collation system and result viewing portal are different from the National Electronic Register. But before then, it says here, the result transmitted to the result viewing portal is to give the public at large the opportunity to view the polling unit result on election day. It is clear from the provisions of the regulation. Now, my people, what regulation are there is Supreme Court referring to? INEC regulation. It is clear from the INEC regulation section 38 subsection I and II that the collation system and result viewing portal are different from the National Electronic Register. And then let's start from the beginning. It says, as their names depict, the collation system, collation, remember that APC people say that the collation does not need electronic distance. The collation system and INEC result viewing portal are what? Are part of the election process and play particular role in that process. Please. Gloria, please, can you hear me? Please,
yes.
Can you read the first three lines? You know, use this your lady's voice to read the first three lines for our viewers. That is Supreme Court talking. When you're reading it, you're quoting Supreme Court. Can you read it, please? Okay, Gloria, I'm missing you. Madam, Ifoma, can you read the first three lines, please? The first three lines.
As their names depict, the collation system and the INEC result viewing portal are part of the election process and plays particular roles in that process.
Did you hear Nigeria? Yes, continue, please.
The coalition system is made up of centers where the results are collated.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, okay. Fine, it's okay, Gloria. I've seen that. So now, Nigerians, please, as you go home, the reason why you should go home and be arrested is because this case is getting to the Supreme Court. And this is what the Supreme Court said just May this year. This year, May. This is August. 3 months ago. That was Supreme Court judgment 3 months ago. And by the time Supreme Court made this statement, even the Labour Party, it doesn't matter. Whereas their own regulation, in fact, the other this thing you wanted to show before, let's keep talking while you keep it there. The other slide you wanted to show before, let's keep it. Nigerians can read it as we are talking. That slide is where INEC was preaching why it is important for them to do electronic transmission. That if they don't do electronic transmission, our electoral process is going to be like before, whereby after voting, people will hijack the vote. People will change the result. And so this time around, in order to prevent all those things, they now invented this electronic system. And they went further to say that this electronic system they have invented is backed by the law. That is INEC that said it by themselves, for my people. And do you know the funny thing? Labour Party copied exactly this thing in their final address. And this is the manual, INEC's manual, paragraph 2.90 of INEC manual. So Labour Party copied INEC manual and presented it for the judges to see. So while they are speaking all this English here, oh, electronic transmission is not important, beavers is not important, this is what their manual say. And remember that the lawyer of the APC said that the appeal court told INEC that they have a right to choose any method. Yes, the appeal court said what is in the Electoral Act. Electoral Act says that INEC shall prescribe the way the results, the election and transmission shall be conducted. Because in the previous election, they used card reader, you remember?
But in this election, they use beavers. The next election, they may use a full scanner. So the Electoral Act has mentioned electronic equipment, but the specific electronic equipment may keep on changing. That's why every other election they want to hold, in their regulation, they need to specify the name of that electronic they will use. In the previous election of 2019, it was card reader. But in the election of 2022, it is now BVAS, bimodal verification accreditation system. The next one, it might be the one you use when you're going to the embassy. But Electoral Act 2022 has already stated that they must use electronics in the verification and transmission of the result. So that is why the appeal court told them that the law give them that right. But that is what this lawyer is quoting wrongly, because eventually what they now came to publish in their manual and in their guideline, as Nigerians can see here, anybody who is reading this is not Peter Obi's lawyer saying it. This is copying. You can see the inverted comma open and close, meaning that it's a quote. They copied INEC's regulation. They copied what INEC used to train their workers. They copied what INEC puts in their document. The law recognized this document. INEC is bound by law to follow this thing they put. And INEC themselves, you can see it in the second paragraph, says the real-time publishing of polling unit level result on IRF portal and transmission of results using beavers demonstrates INEC's commitment to transparency in result management. This commitment is backed by Section 47, we have been quoting Section 60, Section 64, and Section 65. So Nigerians, the problem here is that INEC abandoned Section 47, Section 60, Section 64, and Section 65 of the Electoral Act. They have abandoned 4 sections that had to do with the day of election. And I am waiting to hear that appeal court that will say, INEC, let us clap for you. Remember, they used the amount to say now that the election was impeccable. Impeccable. Did you people hear it? Impeccable. How can it be impeccable when they abandoned their own regulation, they abandoned their own manual, and they violated 4 sections of the law that empowered them? Is it possible? Is that impeccable? That is not impeccable. And then they were talking about the issue of the forfeiture. Now, we have discussed this issue of the forfeiture times without number. And yesterday, when we were discussing yesterday, we made mention of mischief rule, the mischief rule. What is mischief rule in law? Mischief rule in law says if there is a law that is existing, and despite the fact that there is a law, people are still finding loophole to manipulate the law. The lawmakers, like the National Assembly, may gather together and say, there's a lot of loophole in our law. Let us correct this loophole. They will say, okay, what is that loophole? They say, we have noticed that this bail, when someone shoots somebody, as long as that person is able to pay 10,000 naira, the grant bail, and the person will run away, is too weak. Let us make it hard for the person to be able to run away. They say, okay, if there's an allegation about someone who killed somebody, we are going to make sure that he's not going to be granted bail. Even if he's going to be granted bail, there will be a tracker in his body. He will not be given his international passport, so he will not vanish. Do you understand? So the mischief they are trying to cure there is the inability of someone to escape after being granted bail. Therefore, if that new law is signed, if that new act is signed into law by the president, anybody who commits an act that is grievous, like shooting someone, can no longer be granted bail. And even if the person is granted bail, certain documents, certain measures as outlined in the law must be carried. So the mischief of our Electoral Act is what they are quoting here. INEC is mentioning the mischief here. INEC is trying to say with their mouth that before now, after election is conducted, we notice that what happens, they will snatch the ballot, they will rewrite the result, they will do all kind of nonsense. So let us try and see if we can stop it by creating a method whereby we can upload our result in an electronic format, so that when we get to the point of collation, it becomes a challenge for them. Now, that is the mischief the Electoral Act 2022 is trying to cure from the previous Electoral Act. And what INEC did was to take up the Electoral Act 2022 and cut off the same mischief they wanted to cure and return the process back to Electoral Act 2010. And you can see that they bungled it. And you know what? God will bless this man called Peter Obi. There is a way God helps him. I think for APC to go to court in Osun State to challenge Adeleke was the greatest mistake they made. If they knew, they would have kept quiet. Because if they had kept quiet now, there won't be any precedence on Supreme Court judgment based on Electoral Act 2022. But by going to court and challenging Adeleke's election, Supreme Court has now told them how they read and interpret Electoral Act 2022, especially with respect to upload to IREV. So God has gone ahead of Peter Obi to fight this battle for him even before the case started. And we thank God. We can only thank God. God, who knows how to fight for the weak Nigerians, will continue to fight for all of us. I don't know if you have any other story that is trending in Nigeria today that you want us to discuss. If not, I think I am happy the way we are closing today. Have you got anything?
Yes, I just wanted us to look at this clip. It has to do with the concluding aspect from the PDP side. Just a little take of what came up.
People's Democratic Party, PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar filed to nullify President Bola Tinubu's election. The Justice Haruna Samani-led five-member panel okayed the matter for judgment after all the parties adopted their final briefs of judgment. While adopting their final written address, Atiku and the PDP, through their team of lawyers led by Chief Chris Uche, senior advocate of Nigeria, urged Tinubu was not qualified to contest the presidential poll held on February 25. Alternatively, the petitioners urged the court to nullify the entire outcome of the presidential election and order a rerun or fresh contest. And his party alleged that the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), despite receiving over 355 billion naira for the conduct of the election, deliberately bypassed all the technological innovations it introduced for the purpose of the 2023 general elections. They contended that INEC of the Electoral Act when it refused to electronically transmit the results of the presidential election. On the issue of the transmission of election results based on new provisions in the Electoral Act, were all in agreement, including the INEC, in election management. The essence of the innovation was to enhance transparency in the collation of results, which was an area where we usually had problems, and not the actual election. And secondly, to strengthen the integrity of the result declared. We are in the action, and we brought video evidence by INEC chairman showing that the electoral body indeed chose an option. It is our contention, and it is hearing evidence, that witnesses admitted that results from the National Assembly election were transmitted, but that of the presidential election was not. A 300 billion naira was deployed for the election. Therefore, INEC owes the court and the nation an explanation. It is a submission that there was.
So, Doctor, I don't know what you have to say about this clip that I've just shown.
Yeah, you see, I like that statement where the PDP pointed out by themselves that whatever they call a glitch was self-inflicted. It was a deliberate act of the INEC to bypass the provisions of the law, the use of the equipment as prescribed by the law, so that they will deliberately manipulate. Okay, like he says here, it is a submission that there was no technical glitch on election day. Rather, there was a deliberate bypass of the technology in order to create room for the manipulation that eventually took place. Now, if we look at this and refer to it to what they said in their manual, you see that what they did was to deliberately cause the so-called glitch so that they will push us back to the same error they told us they wanted to cure. So what Atiku is saying and what they were saying is that by not doing that thing they said in paragraph 2.9.0 of their guideline, they have exposed the whole election to the same thing they used to be afraid of in our electoral process. Simple. If you say that, the reason why armed robbers shoplifters barge into a shop is because the shops don't have alarm system that will make it when someone touches the door, the alarm goes off. And then you went and demobilized the alarm that is installed. What have you done? You are indirectly saying, hello, shoplifters, even though there had been installation of alarms, you can still have your way because we have demobilized what? The alarm system. The alarm system was installed to make it impossible for shoplifters to penetrate so that when they touch the shop gates or they touch the shop door, the whole alarm will go on. And then the alarm was installed, the alarm was tested, the alarm was even used in a smaller shops. Everything was working. You train your security people on how to use the alarm. And then on the big day, when you used to be afraid of shoplifters, you deliberately, according to Atiku, which everybody believe, now, let's say that the shop has sections where they say jewelries that are expensive, diamonds, gold, platinum. Let's consider that to be our presidential election. And then there is another section of the shop system, the shopping mall, where they sell things like, the trainers, sneakers, shirts, all those kind of things. So let's consider it like the House of Rep and what have you. Now you decided to go and demobilize the alarm system in the section of the shopping mall where they sell expensive things like jewelries of gold and silver and platinum, and made it active where they sell ordinary shoes. And you blame the alarm equipment company. The alarm equipment company say on the day, because like overseas, when every houses have the alarm system, when anything happens, it sets off alarm in their office. And the office people are saying, we didn't get any alarm. And you're saying there is a breach because you actually demobilized the alarm system by yourself. That is what INEC did. And by the time they demobilize it, the wiring and everything is still there, but armed robbers were still able to go and do shoplifting. That is what INEC did. INEC made it possible for politicians to shoplift our presidential election by demobilizing the alarm system that is supposed to catch them. So they colluded. They colluded with politicians to rob us of our presidential election. And I keep saying it. Any judge, there is something somebody said today when I was discussing with them on phone, a senior lawyer like that. He said, if the court endorses what INEC has done, they have killed the Electoral Act. because the politicians will never allow IREF to work again. That the only way this Electoral Act 2022 can be given its power is by the court wielding the big stick on the politicians in this case. The moment they find any way to circumvent it, forget it. This Electoral Act is dead and buried. So this judgment is not just about Labour Party getting justice. It is also about securing the so-called beavers that costed $1 billion. It's also making this Electoral Act to become an effective document that we can rely on. This single judgment will cost Nigeria more than a presidential election. It will cost Nigeria more. They can take these beavers, burn it, throw it away, because it will become utterly useless. If their judgment does not tie the hand of INEC by forcing them to go back to the law that the president signed, they have destroyed $1 billion. They have destroyed the confidence of Nigerians. They have destroyed our hope in democracy. And God forbid, look at what is happening in Niger. Military took over and people are rejoicing. Military took over from the so-called democratically elected government and people are rejoicing. Why would people? Because the confidence they have in the electoral process has completely eroded. So the judges must look beyond a man they may want to please, to see that they want to rupture the little faith Nigerians have in our electoral process. It goes beyond who won and who did not win. Remember what Peter Obi used to say, I don't have any problem with anybody. I have a problem with this process. If the court ever endorses this shabby process, INEC have used their mouth to say that what they did was impeccable. They would do worse and it will be equal to impeccable. That's my submission.
Wow, Doc, thank you so much. But I have a question. So many people have argued that one of the things that the tribunal want to look at when ruling is, let me say, the economical state of Nigeria. They wouldn't want to make a ruling that will not favor our economical situation. So does it mean that they might want to alter judgment because Nigeria is in a dying state, financially? Because we know that Atiku is asking that this election be cancelled. Even Peter Obi is saying that he should be declared the winner or this election should be cancelled. So my question is that, seeing that we are in a very critical state economically, is that going to affect the decisions of the judges in any way?
Okay, let's look at it this way. Peter Obi said during the Twitter space on Sunday, was it on Sunday or last week? On Saturday, during the Twitter space, that one of the goodwill, one of the reason why people make investment, secure their investment and what have you, in countries like Switzerland, United Kingdom, USA, is because of the faith they have in the rule of law. So if the judges become sentimental, they will crush people's faith in the rule of law. And when they crush people's faith in the rule of law, the all-share index of the Nigerian Stock Exchange put together, the whole Nigerian Stock Exchange, 3 big companies, maybe in the UK, Bank of America, Bank of England, even let's just say, not Bank of England, maybe say Barclays Bank, NatWest, and Lloyds put together. I am sure that if you check their market capitalization, it is bigger than the market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And when I say Nigerian Stock Exchange, I mean all the sectors put together. Do you know that when foreign investors come into our market, both the stock exchange and everything is flying? If the judges give a judgment based on sentiment, they may erode the confidence of the international community who will make foreign direct investment in Nigeria. Because they will see our justice system as a tool of the winner takes it all. But if they make a judgment that will shake the system, the confidence people have in Nigeria will shoot up, because they will say, those guys, don't mind them. They are playing. They may look like they are not serious, but if you're near their courts, they will not spare you. Those guys know what they're doing. Secondly, Festus Okoye used his mouth in one of the videos we played here to say that for every election that INEC is prepared, they printed double ballot paper in case there is an election too. So what is it? They have ballot paper printed. They have the beavers. They are not buying new beavers. They have the ballot papers. All they need to do is to pay. Do you know the amount of money INEC is using to hire lawyers to fight this nonsense can conduct another election? So what are we talking about our economy when they are blowing the money, paying lawyers? Mahmoud, INEC lawyer, don't care whether INEC wins or loses. He's making money off INEC. Do you know the amount of money INEC is using to hire lawyers in all the election petitions? We conduct that election times 2. And thirdly, what about the rupturing of the confidence of Nigerians? Remember that 69%, about 67% of Nigerians are not in support of this man that INEC declared winner. Because based on the so-called election result INEC declared, it was only about 30-something percent. His whole score is about 30, I think 35, okay, let's just say 36%. If it is 36%, where is the other 64%? So about 64% of Nigeria, if we use the election as a representative case, as a sample, because they have decided our fate, it means that 64% of Nigerians are not happy. So let's put it this way. Even if we want to use sentiment, judges, the question is, would you rather make 34%, what do you call it? Would you rather make 36% happy or 64% of the population? Would you rather make 36% happy in the system or 64%? 64% is saying this is a lie. 36% is saying this is the truth. If we are talking democracy, the vote speaks for itself. So I don't see any logic in that argument. There is absolutely no logic, unless they are trying to say that if the court annuls the election, that the man who is in Aso Rock will go the way of Libya, or go the way of Syria and mobilize the army to begin to fight Nigerians. But if he's a Democrat and the court annuls your election, you step down, go back to the field. And I don't think they would do it. INEC is already begging for a rerun election, even though they're giving caveat. If we must go back to the field, we don't want Peter Obi, we don't want Labour Party. What are they afraid of? We are happy to go back to the election, but please don't give us Peter Obi, don't give us Labour Party. Isn't that funny? So, I don't know. That's it.
Honestly, they are okay. Sorry. Yeah, Gloria, you can.
Yes, thank you. I have a question, and it's regarding. Usually, you always mention Supreme Court, that regardless of the judgment of the appeal courts, that we are still going to wait for the Supreme Court to give their judgment, because disagreeing parties will definitely go to Supreme Court. So I want to find out, is it that this current appeal judgment, it's not going to hold so much water, and then the judges that we're going to meet at the Supreme Court, are there still going to be these 5 justices that are in charge of this current election petition tribunal?
Okay, let me explain it. The reason why I say so is the Supreme Court is like the Senate of a university. No matter what happens, the Senate must approve your result before you graduate, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you fulfill all those conditions that the Senate must look at before they approve your result. But does that mean that you don't need your supervisor to approve your project? Does that mean that you don't need the result of the so and so? But it's the Senate that will say, no, 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 no. We don't even like this way you scored this person. Go and remark the script. It's the Senate, isn't it? So you should be thinking, how will the Senate assess me? Okay, so let's bring it back to this whole process. There won't be any hearing again. There won't be any presentation of witness again. So the appeal court is like it's called in this case, the trial court. All the trial, all the gathering and submission of evidence is completed at the appeal court. And then there are 5 men. They will do their judgment. You remember I explained it, was it yesterday or day before yesterday? Each judge will independently review the whole situation and write his or her own judgment independently. And then they will pass it on to the other judges. So the judge number 5 will pass to judge number 1. Judge number 1 will pass his own to judge number 2, judge number 2 to judge number 3, judge number 3 to judge number 4, judge number 4 to judge number 5. So they will move it like that until everybody have read the judgment of each party, each judge. Now, if all of them agreed on the same direction, it is called unanimous decision. But because there are 5, 3 must agree in one direction. In the worst case scenario, the scenarios here is that 4 may agree against 1. All 5 may agree in the same direction. It becomes unanimous. If 4 agrees in one direction and 1 didn't go the other way, he becomes a dissenting judgment. A dissenting judgment. But if in the event that 3 agrees in one direction and 2 agrees the other direction, the other 3 that agrees in one direction becomes majority judgment. That majority judgment may say yes to the prayers of Peter Obi or no to the prayers of Peter Obi. Does that make sense? Good. Now, what will now happen is that you can now see that there are 2 camps in their judgment. One camp says yes or no. The other camp says yes or no. So the majority is whatever the majority agrees is the judgment. So what will now happen is that they will elect one person out of that 3 that agrees in one direction to write the summary of the judgment of 3 of them, thereby picking the points of each person. And it is called the lead judgment. That summary will be called the lead judgment. Then the other 2, who are the minority people, will now go and appoint one person that will summarize what the other 2 people agree, because they are tending to one direction, and it will become the dissenting judgment. And they will read it to the world. When it gets to the Supreme Court might pick that lead judgment, tear it, and throw it inside the dustbin, and uphold the dissenting judgment and say, even though they are 2, they said the right thing. Okay? And what it means is that the appeal that came to the Supreme Court, because it's only the person that is in the minority judgment, the person whom the minority judgment favored, that will contest the majority judgment, that will go and appeal. It means that his appeal succeeded. Because the Supreme Court has now what they call set aside. It means the Supreme Court has set aside the judgment of the appeal court and upheld the dissenting judgment of the appeal court. So you see the steps going forward. So no judgment at the appeal court level is unimportant. All of them are tough and important. And 2 of them will be presented before the Supreme Court. But if all of them agrees in one direction and give unanimous judgment, someone who didn't like it will still go ahead to appeal to the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court may find his prayers worthy and they will set aside that unanimous judgment of the appeal court and write an entirely new judgment that they will deliver. So you can see that every stage is possible. But because everything must finally land on the desk of the Supreme Court, that is why the judgment of the Supreme Court using this Electoral Act is more important to me now. It's very, very important to me now because it's good to begin to read the mind of the person who will eventually determine your final fate. Kingsley asked, will the courts and the parties allow Mahmoud Mohammed remain there to conduct another election if there's a rerun? This question keeps coming up all the time, and I keep giving the same answer. I don't know. The political parties may gang up and make a vote of no confidence, putting pressure on the government to change him. The pressure cannot, the Nigerian civil society might say, not Mahmoud again. And when they raise that alarm, the authorities that will remove him can now remove him. But unless those things are done, constitutionally, he still has his job. That's all. It's like saying the commissioner of police should be removed because he didn't do investigation well. Well, you are not the IG that will fire him. IG has to fire him. If not, he will still be in your face. All the people who keep people doing the NSAS, are they still not harassing us? Anything else?
No, Doctor, I think we are due to go. Thank you very much for your analysis. So, our viewers want to say a very big thank you for joining us. No doubt you've picked one or two information from today's live session. For me, I'm just like, I don't know what came up on INEC, for them to have allowed what they allowed during this election. They say they had a glitch. Tell Nigerians what the glitch is all about. Till today, we don't even know what happened. They just tried to manipulate this election, despite the preparation that they saw in the Nigerian people. I think that was even what made them to be afraid. They saw that the youths came out. The youths, they are just tired of the whole thing, the whole happenings in Nigeria. We want a new Nigeria, and that was the signal that was sent out. So they didn't know what else to do, if not for them to, go ahead to tamper with the transmission of results from the polling unit. So guys, our faith is just in God. Let's just believe God that our judges, they will stand firm. They will not allow any form of manipulation or influence, because that's what we are thinking that happened to the INEC chairman. All of a sudden, even 24 hours or about 12 hours before the election, he kept coming out to tell Nigerians that results will be transmitted live, real time. That's the language, real time from the polling units to the IREF. That's what he kept telling Nigerians. All of a sudden, they told us they had a glitch, that the network wasn't going. Some people said they didn't have passwords. There were so many things coming up at that time. So guys, if Mahmoud could, let me say, betray the Nigerian people who had confidence in him that he's going to conduct this election credibly, so nothing is impossible, even with the judges. That's why we really have to be praying and believing God that God will touch their hearts so that they will stand firm with the people of Nigeria, because we can't have Nigeria to keep sliding every day. We want this country to progress. So I want to say a very big thank you to those of you that joined us. Please do well to like this video so that YouTube can push it out for others to see. Subscribe to our channel. That's the only way you can support us. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell, because that's the only way you equally get any notification anytime we are live here or we have any vital information we want to share with you guys. I want to say a very big thank you for being part of today's live session. Dr. Etel, I appreciate all the points you've made tonight. And Gloria, thank you too for being a part of this beautiful team. God bless you all and good night. See you tomorrow again.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
You too. Bye. Good night. All good.